Good morning. In California, the American River cascades down the Sierra on its way to the Pacific. My wife and I were there one day, and we parked by the river and went to one of the swimming holes, boulders all around and water for swimming. And I remember sitting in the water, and some college kids were over there making a lot of noise and just having a lot of fun. And all of a sudden, they got quiet. And I thought maybe something was wrong. So I slipped into the water, and I went over there, and I said, "Is someone down there?" Yes, oh, please, yes, there is someone down there. And I took a surface dive, and I went down about 12 feet, very cold. And sure enough, on the bottom of the river was this big 19-year-old just laying there. So I grabbed him, and I brought him to the surface. And it was terrifying because he was black as coal. It's called cyanotic when there's no oxygen in the air, in the body. And so the kids all panicked and ran off. I needed them. This is a big kid that I have with me. So I'm struggling to bring him over to one of the boulders, and I propped him up on the boulder, and it was a moment of truth. This man that's black and me. I put my mouth over his, and I puffed air into him, and it was miraculous. He turned pink immediately. Just an amazing thing to see happen. So I reached over and put my lips on his again and puffed air into him, and I could hear a gurgle, and then I could hear him breathe, and I knew he would live, and he was okay. That experience is with me for the rest of my life. But what's interesting here is that it has had an effect on me, and I have started nonprofit programs many, many times and gone to foundations many, many times, to the point where I became a student of philanthropy, if you will. And one day a foundation had an opening, and they invited me to apply. And since then, I've run what are called community foundations. This is not my money. It's a collection of money from various people who want to do good in the community. I've been doing this now for 45 years. I'm known as something of a maverick in the field because I do things differently. First of all, I think that it's not giving money away. I want people to be successful. I tell my staff that anyone walks in the door, their success is our job. We want them to succeed. But first, let me tell you something about doing things differently. A while back, a person gave us $50,000 and said, "Spend it on education." In my naivete, I sent a notice to all the teachers in the San Francisco Bay Area. This is an area of 7 million people. And I said, these were in low-income areas, and I said, if you'd like a $500 grant for science equipment or art supplies or whatever you need for the classroom, just fax us a page and we'll see what we can do for you. I remember when the first fax came in, and I looked at it, and I thought, what am I waiting for? So we funded it right then and there on the spot. And this was the beginning of the fax grant program, which is the name the teachers gave it, where teachers can get up to $500 for a field trip, an artist in the classroom, arts and science supplies. One page co-signed by the principal. We respond in 48 hours with a check. And the teachers love it. So far, we've given out $10 million this way. This was my idea, and it worked so well that we extended it to social workers who work with abused children. These are people who they have no resources like for a bicycle or a basketball or whatever the kid might need. So we said, we'll give you $250 anytime, one page, 48-hour wait, and you get the money. And they love it. So I was meeting with some judges, juvenile judges, and I said, do you ever have kids come before you that need dental work or glasses? Oh, yeah, absolutely. For 15 years now, we've worked with all the juvenile judges in the San Francisco Bay Area, helping them with the wards of their court. One page, 48 hours, and they get the check, and they love it. This is innovative philanthropy that came from my imagination. Now, all of our grants at our foundation are made in 48 hours. If we know the person's background, and if there's trust between us, very, very important for that trust. For me, philanthropy has been an opportunity to try new ideas, and ideas are very important because ideas are positive. What is it you want to have happen, and how do you want to bring it about? And yet almost all foundations ask in their application, what's the problem, and what do you propose to do? Why put people in a negative stance when you can keep them positive? If you're positive, you can be more creative and productive. I remember one of the ideas we came up with was to bring together 5 black professionals. And I gave them $100,000. And I said, you go out in the community and give it out as you see fit. And they did. And they did a wonderful job. So we brought together 5 artists, and we gave them $100,000 and to go out in the community and give it to other artists or art programs. And they did a wonderful job. So we brought together 5 young adults under 35 years old and gave them $100,000 and said, go out in the community and see what you can do with this. And they did, and it was others, and it worked. This is sharing the prerogative of giving and letting others decide how some of the money will be given out. Every so often we come across a young person who is just active in the community and a wonderful person. We give them $10,000 and we say, you give it out. In a sense, they're miniature foundations. We call them ambassadors because they can give it, they find things that we would never find. This is grassroots philanthropy. In graduate school, I majored in criminology, and I've always wanted to find ways to help people who are at dead ends. For example, in Bangkok, are there any programs that sponsor young women who want to get ahead and who now live on nightlife activities? This is our opportunity to think about new ways to do grassroots community philanthropy, to do giving that gets you excited, that has impact, which is something positive happening for a better community. By the way, that's the definition of good philanthropy, impact, something positive happening for a better community. There are 3 categories within this: desirable, important, and vital. Philanthropy is not just giving money away. It is finding and funding people doing vital work. Let me give an example. Larry Purcell is a man who serves the poor. Many of you saw him when you came to California a while back. He's an ex-priest. He takes no salary. He feeds, clothes, and houses the poor. He's part of a Catholic worker program. He houses 40 men a night. He gets free food and distributes it. He counsels people. He's a dedicated man doing outstanding work. I've worked for him for over 35 years and maybe distributed over $1 million to his programs. There is complete trust between us. I know him, I trust him, and I admire what he does. And never has he submitted a request to me in writing. If there is complete trust, why do I want a written proposal from him? I don't. I consider his work to be vital. We just talk, and if he has a need, we fund it quickly. I visit him often to see and feel confident about his work. No appointments, I just drop in. So now let me review with you what just went on. I found a person doing outstanding work. I fully understand what he is doing, and I trust him. He writes no request to me. We just talk. We fund him when he needs something. So, my friends, find outstanding people, trust them, and fund them quickly. Now, some years ago, Larry phoned me. He said, Bill, remember that truck you got us 4 years ago, the one we used to go to San Francisco and pick up food and deliver it to programs back here for the poor? Yeah, the darn thing's worn out. I said, well, what does a truck cost? He says, I'll let you know. And he phones me that afternoon and he says, a truck costs $44,000. And my friends, in 4 hours, a check for $44,000 went out to him with the following cover letter. Dear Larry, enclosed is our check for $44,000 for you to buy a truck to be used to get commodities and bring them back to the county for programs serving the poor. Please sign a copy of this letter as a receipt for my files and as agreement with the above. 1 page. That's all I need for a legal agreement between us. Why would I want more paper? Well, He phones me a while back and he says, you know the truck you got us? Yeah. We use it every day at 5 in the morning to go up to the produce mart. This is where the farmers bring in their goods and sell them to the grocers, and then they sell them to the public. He says, would you like to go with us? I said, yes. And the next morning, I put on my shirt at 5 in the morning. It said Catholic Worker across it, and I had him a little push cart. And you beg food. We have no money whatsoever. And we go to the produce mart, and I went up to one of the vendors, and I said, do you have anything we can have? And it had a big vat here, and it had onions in it with that little sprout in them, meaning they're a little bit older. The public doesn't like that, but they're perfectly good. He says, you can have it. And we took that vat, and we put it in our new truck, and those onions served the poor for a long time. This is grassroots philanthropy. Today in the United States, it takes 44 hours or more to apply to a foundation for money. Why, I ask? This is wrong. Paper is not due diligence, but it is being businesslike, but it misses the opportunity for spontaneity. I spent 20 years visiting 400 foundations in the United States, Canada, and England. What I found for the most part was that people were paralyzed in bureaucracies of their own making. They were not having much impact with their work. They were caught up in paperwork. The concept of trust didn't exist. It was seen as naive as all things. The same for venturing. Too risky. Stay away from that. Foundations, for the most part in the United States, do not take risks, and they miss the opportunity for impact. In grassroots philanthropy, you are finding and funding leadership, and applications do not define leadership. You need to get out of the office and find and visit programs and see for yourself if it is well run, and that there is a leader. Very simple, but we are moving towards more and more paper in the United States, and this is unfortunate. Let me talk to you about trust and risk. First, you need to trust yourself, your intuition, your judgment. If you trust a person, something could go wrong, but this is the risk you're willing to take. Risk is venture philanthropy. If it does go wrong, it's a learning experience. But you need to venture in philanthropy. Risk and trust are related, because if you can trust someone like Larry, you can risk with him and try new things and be more effective. This is venture philanthropy. And yet too many people are afraid of failure. It might go wrong. So they rely on paper to be careful and exercise due diligence. But paper can't replace trust. Trust honors excellence. Consider creating a venture fund where you take risks and expect for some failures. Set aside $100,000. And if a request comes into your office and it's just crazy, you just have never seen anything like this before, but there's something in it that attracts you, fund it with your risk fund. You can have some failures possibly, and we'll learn from those, but give yourself the leeway to do that. And 6 months down the road, check what you've been doing with that risk fund, and I think you'll be pleased. Let me tell you a story about risk funding. This is about youth in jail. We wanted to do something that would make life better for them. We went to Larry Purcell, who at the time was the priest in the jail, and I said, what can we give the kids that would be good? He says, get them a jukebox to play music. Oh, I'd never heard of such a thing. So to get perspective, I phoned the psychiatrist at the jail. I said, what would you do? I'd get them a hamburger stand to make hamburgers. I'd never heard of such a thing. So then I went to the guy in charge of the jail, and I said, what would you do? I'm not getting involved in this. It's up to you to decide what to do. So we got them a jukebox, and everyone seemed pleased. And this money came from the risk fund. Another story about jail is with the Zohar Dance Company, where an Israeli came to the United States to teach young people dance. As he progressed in his work, he included youth in jail, and he was very successful in motivating them. I took a risk with him in the jail effort, and it was a good move. It was a new idea, and he made it work. This came from the risk fund. Philanthropy can be very exciting. Let me give an example. It is called initiative philanthropy, where you can cause something to happen as opposed to sitting in the office and waiting for the phone to ring or the mail to come in. Years ago, I recruited 3 poor Mexican women, and I gave them the job of working in the community with other poor Mexican women to try to keep the kids from dropping out of school. Because the kids were dropping out, then they would become failures, then their life was ruined. And that's not acceptable. So I paid these 3 women, and I gave them freedom to set up the program themselves. This was 15 years ago. And the principal says, I couldn't run the school now without them. The point is that we created a program by taking the initiative in an important cause. This is called causative philanthropy. 2 new terms. Initiative philanthropy, where you have an idea, and causative philanthropy, where you make it happen. Give it a try. In grassroots philanthropy, give yourself time to know the community and where you can be effective. To find outstanding people, you need to be in the community and become aware of them. Go places you wouldn't normally go. Expose yourself to new experiences and watch for people doing good work. Larry Purcell, the man I mentioned earlier, was one of those people we discovered from our being in the community, and we're very proud to have found him. He wasn't obvious. In the act of giving, remember, applications usually aren't needed. If you know the person and have seen their work, and there is trust, very important word, trust. You can even do paperless giving, where you come to an agreement. If so, send the check with a letter stating what it is for and ask for a signature in agreement. The truck we funded was paperless giving. Give quickly when the money is needed. You can have more impact. Don't wait for your next meeting 3 or 4 or 6 months down the way. I give in 48 hours. It is called immediate response grant making. With Larry Purcell, we agree over the phone. My letter with the check is the written agreement. When money is given, be clear it is for something. You're not giving money or bestowing it. You are actually investing in excellence, and there is an expectation. Creating an immediate response fund. Give yourself leeway. Set aside $100,000 to immediately respond to things. And 6 months down the road, check it out, what you've been doing with that immediate money, giving yourself that leeway. And I think you'll be very pleased. Immediate money can have more impact because it's getting money to the people when it's needed, not 6 months or a year later, now. Most of the time, I'm giving general support money, which is based on your reputation and the honesty between us. Recent research in the United States states that this is the best kind of giving that you can do. Don't ask for a detailed breakdown of every little thing that you're going to fund with the grant to them. Is this risky? Well, what's the alternative? Tons of paperwork. How do you measure success? There was an agreement when you funded something for something to be done. Question, was it done? How does the program leader feel about the program? Let him share what was good and what was bad. Let him decide if it was successful. Don't give a check-off list of all the things that you consider to be success. If there's trust with the person, let him decide. And ideally, he'll even tell you when it went wrong. And we grow from that. It's a better relationship because we have done that. I think success is more in the eyes of the recipient than it is in the eyes of the giver. It is important for you to visit programs. Go places you wouldn't normally go. Find people who are new leaders. Your work should be exciting. Your giving should have impact, something positive happening for a better community. Your giving should reflect trust in yourself and others. Be willing to risk and venture. Find outstanding people and puff new air into them.